cast into water drill is a pile-based drill. There are two piles because there's a primary line that must be first taught and then run successfully, not only for the location of the pile, of course, but in this one, the actual route to the primary pile is a cheaty type of route, and you really have to take a little time to establish it before teaching and then running the cast pile. And you'll see how all that's done. This handler has moved up to simplify, and I think that's a smart thing to do, particularly in this case because the dog was being overwhelmed by the line a little bit, and you really don't want to turn it into a handling war. As you can see, you send the dog stop and diagonally cast, but number one is the line that you have to establish first and show the dog where the pile is, and then number two. And you'll flag this drill out. As you can see, there are flags at the line where the dog will be sent from. There's a flag where the dog will be stopped at, and flags at each pile that the dog will be sent to ultimately.
More bumpers. Please let me go. That's thinking with your feet. Same pile. There's no way I'm going to send him over there.
Now that the piles have been identified, the dog will be sent to pile 1, but instead of sending him all the way there, he will be stopped, as you saw in the diagram, he'll be stopped at the flag and then be given an exact literal cast to the cast pile. That'll require the dog, especially in this case, to be cast right into a very stiff wind.
Get closer to your dog and see what happens.
And this is pretty typical. The dog has been corrected about running the bank on that line, and so he just went over and dived in the water. You've got to stay with it, just like a cheating single, and teach him the exact route. Do not start teaching the cast pile until you have really sharpened and well established the primary line to pile number 1. When that's well established, then your thrower will move around to pile number 2 and throw a bumper there to identify that. For the purpose of that, you'll move up to the casting flag, have the bumper thrown, and send the dog there. Once he's been there, then bring him back and sit him, and then walk back away from the dog and send him to the cast pile by way of cast.
Whistling mouth. Cast.
As you can see, initially the dog was reluctant to go, but the handler didn't just quit on that or blow a sit whistle. He stayed with the cast, walked it, pumped it, and the dog got up and went, and is now taking the cast. As I mentioned, this was a very strong wind, and it was like that all day long.
Get the bumper out of the pile, please. Yell and throw into the pile. Remember that t-shirt I gave away yesterday?
As you may have guessed, this is not an early transitional drill. Casting into water drill, definitely early transition, but it's a much simpler version than this. The more advanced the dog is that approaches this drill, the easier time he's going to have with it. He's not going to be very cheaty, and he's going to be much more willing to take difficult casts, and knows how to handle the wind and all of that. These dogs were presented to me as being mid to late transition. That's the kind of dog that you do this with. As you'll see as we go along, several dogs will run this, and they're at different points in training and the maintenance of their training. And you'll see some pretty fundamental weaknesses in some of these dogs. And by the way, I see that everywhere across the country with dogs at every level. Most often, if they have a problem, and they almost always do have a problem, it's a basic problem. The cast is diagonally to the right, and so taking lateral steps to the right will help encourage the dog to take that cast and give a genuine course change instead of just rotating to the right and going straight back where he's just been.
No, this can't be so. He said back. But it was the right thing to do.
To the right, and so taking lateral steps to the and give a genuine to the right and going more advantage been. And so taking lateral